Gerald Posner, how big is the Vatican Bank and how powerful are God's bankers?
Well, it's about the size, Greg, of a mid-sized investment bank in the U.S. So not enormous, not the size of a Citibank or J.P. Morgan, but it's dealing in over $10 to $15 billion a year running through it. And in terms of power, it's the only bank. It's a cross between the Federal Reserve and Citibank, sitting inside a little sovereign country, Vatican City.
And you spent 10 years researching this book. You have 130 pages of notes. How tough was it to crack open the Vatican Bank to report?
Oh, it was tough because the Vatican stiff-armed me. I asked to get inside the secret archives. They said no. I asked for dozens of interviews. They said no. That meant I had to go out and get files from archives in Romania and Poland and in Germany, the old Allianz Dutch files, down in South America, here in the U.S., piece it all together from lawsuits and interviews. It was a tough story to get.
A lot of the story keeps coming back to Pope Pius and his behavior during the Holocaust, during the Second World War. The big question was whether or not he didn't help Italian Jews because he wanted to preserve the church, or because he was anti-communist, or was it for the money?
It's a combination of them. As a matter of fact, not just Italian Jews, it was Jews all over Europe. They had information, the Vatican, coming into them before anyone else, before the Allies had it, because they had priests out in the killing zones. Not that the priests were doing the killing, but in Poland, in Romania, and Croatia, where Jews were being slaughtered by the Nazis, there were parishes. Those priests were reporting the information about the slaughter to their bishops, who were sending it to Rome. He did not act in Rome as the Pope, in part because of money. This is the first book to set forth the reason why.
And speaking about money and the Catholic Church, how responsible is the Pope for the Vatican Bank? I mean, most American companies, your Fortune 500, we have CFOs. They're responsible for the money, and the CEO is responsible for the strategy. How is it intertwined with the Vatican Bank?
As a matter of fact, the only shareholder for the Vatican Bank is the Pope. It has no other shareholder. It's not even required to turn a profit by its own charter. It's an unusual bank. It doesn't make any loans, and that's what's odd about it. Remember, Vatican City is only 1,000 clerics running the entire country, so the Pope is hands-on and very close to it. The clerics under him, the bishops, often run the bank in his stead, and they have regular communication with him.
How dangerous or vast are the liabilities associated with the sex abuse scandals in the Catholic Church?
I have a chapter on that, as a matter of fact, in my book, in which I show what the Vatican Bank and the Vatican did when the sex abuse scandal started to play out in the U.S., is they immediately said, let's insulate ourselves. Let's make sure that if those dioceses in America go down, which 11 have, they've gone bankrupt because of lawsuits, that we aren't infected. And when American lawyers sued the Pope, they were petrified that an American court was going to hold against them. Now an appellate court has said the Pope can't be sued. They feel it won't be an economic hit on them.
What do you think that the Vatican's reaction will be to your book? Because you do a lot of digging.
I don't think they'll be happy about it, but I have sent a copy of this book to Pope Francis with a cover letter that says essentially, Your Holiness, you're trying to reform the bank, which he is. I think he's sincere. This is the history of the bank. You, as the Pope, have inherited this history. So I hope that you look at it as a reminder that your efforts at reform really have to be great.
And what's your view of Pope Francis? Clearly, in the book, you keep coming back to Pope Pius XII and what he didn't do during the Holocaust. So far, Pope Francis has gotten rave reviews. He's taken a few hits at Wall Street, understandably. But how much change can he affect?
He can affect a lot of change, and he's done it so far. He looks like he's the real deal. I say in some ways the new sheriff's in town, he is it. He's reformed the bank in the sense that he now has oversight coming in from European regulators, more transparency, and he's moved it around so hundreds of accounts that were used for money laundering have been closed up. The real question is, Greg, will his reforms last when he one day is replaced by another pope, or will they be rolled back? The answer is still pending.
Well, it's a fantastic book. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for watching The Street.